on February 9th about the crimes she committed with sex trafficker and child rapist and best friend of Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein. Today, Congressman Robert Garcia, the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, said, for months, Ghislaine Maxwell has defied the subpoena ordering her to testify to the Oversight Committee. After pressure from Oversight Democrats, Chairman Comer has finally decided to call her in to testify. Let's be clear, the cover-up is continuing. She has gotten special treatment from the Department of Justice for months. Let's end the cover-up now. Joining us now is Democratic Congressman O'Connor of California. He's a member of that committee. Congressman O'Connor, thank you very much for joining us tonight. What are you expecting from the Ghislaine Maxwell testimony?
Well, first, let me say, talking to survivors, they have such disdain for Maxwell. They view her as someone who really abused them, trafficked them, and is trying to get special treatment. I want to hear from Maxwell, who were the other men who visited Epstein's island? Who were the other men who were engaged in any form of trafficking? And who were the men who showed up at these parties? She knows that. She should be sharing that information.
When I read the testimony that has been given under oath in court and depositions about Ghislaine Maxwell, many of these young girls at the time, it really sounds like they would never have been in Jeffrey Epstein's house if Ghislaine Maxwell hadn't lured them in there.
Sometimes talking to the survivors, they actually have more anger at Maxwell than even at Epstein. I mean, Maxwell basically lured them, trapped them. Maxwell told them, go recruit other young girls. Maxwell guilted them in saying, well, if you don't bring other young girls in, then you're going to continue to be abused. And Maxwell is the one who threatened them, saying, don't go to the police, don't go to the FBI. She's a despicable actor, but she also has knowledge that this was not just Maxwell and Epstein. There were many other rich and powerful men who participated in the abuse or knew about the abuse, and she can be and must be forthcoming about those names, which, by the way, don't implicate her Fifth Amendment rights. I mean, the lawyer says she's going to take the Fifth Amendment. Her naming other people involved does not implicate her.
Yeah, and the testimony, under oath testimony about her, is that she herself had sexual contact with some of these victims.
Yes, I mean, without going into the details, I would just say that the survivors believe that she was equally responsible, if not more, for the abuse. And where she may have more knowledge than anyone is who else was involved and why there's been a cover-up. She could really end up exposing a lot of these individuals.
The committee today voted to hold Bill and Hillary Clinton in contempt because they have not responded to the subpoenas the way the committee wants them to. Some Democrats voted for that. Republicans did vote for that. How did you vote on the Clinton subpoenas?
I voted no on both. First of all, the idea of holding Hillary Clinton in contempt is laughable, but both of the motions was political theater. There's only one person who should be held in contempt in this country, and that is Pam Bondi. She needs to release the files. After she releases the files, the Clintons should come and testify. But President Clinton should demand that Donald Trump is seated right next to him, who has 13,000 mentions in the Epstein files. This is Comer knowing that Trump is in trouble, knowing that his base is angry at him, trying to distract and blame the Clintons. It's not going to work.
As you go forward, if Ghislaine Maxwell simply plans to take the Fifth Amendment on every question, how would the committee handle that?
Well, we should push back to say that there are questions that have nothing to do with her own criminal culpability, and that that's an improper use of the Fifth Amendment. But of course, we can hold her in contempt, but we need to make sure that she is exposed so that Donald Trump does not try to cut some deal with her, move her, pardon her, move her into a less secure prison, the things that they have been doing.
Yeah, and in this particular setting, unlike a judicial setting where the Fifth Amendment really is a shield, and it's next to impossible to move around it in any way or even inquire about it, You can follow up and say, why are you refusing to answer this question about when you first met Donald Trump, or whatever that question is?
Absolutely. We can ask her about her relationship with Donald Trump. We can ask her about her relationship on Mar-a-Lago. We can ask her about her relationship with other people who came to these parties, who came to these parties. Does she know whether other men were involved in trafficking or abusing or raping underage girls? I suppose she could keep taking the Fifth Amendment, but then the American people will know that she's basically lying. And it's really important to explain that the questions that she's being asked have nothing to do with her own criminal culpability. She's covering up for other rich and powerful people to prevent them from having criminal culpability.
February 9th, Ghislaine Maxwell testifies. Congressman Ro Khanna, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
This story is not really about Greenland or tariffs or immigration. It's about how power actually works when loyalty is demanded but never returned. It's about what happens when fear slowly stops working and institutions begin to act in ways they didn't dare to before. And it's about how a president who feels strongest in chaos can suddenly find himself surrounded by a kind of resistance he cannot control. You won't understand this story through breaking news alerts or viral clips. It lives in the spaces between them, in the pauses, in the careful statements, in the words that are chosen too carefully, in the decisions that never make headlines but quietly change everything. By the end of this, you'll see why what looks like political noise is actually a warning. The most dangerous phase of power is not when it rises, but when it starts to come apart. Picture a quiet morning in Washington. The White House hallways look calm. Everything appears normal from the outside. But underneath that silence, something uneasy is moving. Phones are buzzing in pockets. Staff members exchange looks without speaking. Everyone senses that today will not be ordinary. Somewhere inside that building, Donald Trump is circling an idea that keeps coming back to him. Greenland. To the outside world, it sounds strange and unrealistic. To him, it feels like strength. And in that moment, this stops being a simple foreign policy headline. It becomes a story about loyalty, ego, punishment in a political system beginning to strain under the weight of one man's instincts. For Trump, power has never really been about institutions or process. It has been about submission, about people offering loyalty upward without question. That's why this moment matters. Because while he demands total loyalty from everyone around him, he has never believed in returning that loyalty. Now, members of his own party are starting to understand the cost of that imbalance. When Senate Republicans hesitate, when even the most hardline voices slow down, Trump doesn't hear policy disagreement. He hears betrayal. And to him, betrayal is unforgivable. That's why the Greenland episode isn't really about land, minerals, or strategy. It's about control. It's a test to see whether the party still reacts with fear when he speaks. And for the first time in a long time, the reaction is different. Leaders step in front of cameras and say nothing is happening. No crisis, no issue. But what they're really doing is trying to protect a fragile majority that could crack under pressure. When they blame the media or the opposition for exaggerating Trump's own words, it's not messaging. It's damage control. The contradiction is clear. If nothing is happening, why does everyone look tense? Why do statements sound so careful? Why does every sentence feel like it's trying to avoid saying something directly? Because this is no longer about policy. This is about a system trying to protect itself from a leader it cannot fully control. And this is not the first time this pattern has appeared. We saw it with tariffs. We saw it with immigration. We saw it with NATO. Each time, the same sequence plays out. Trump introduces an extreme idea. Inside the system, there is panic. Publicly, everyone shows support. Privately, things slow down. Decisions are delayed. Language is softened. Plans are redirected. This is not open rebellion. It's not loud defiance. It's something quieter, institutional self-preservation. This is the stage of power most people never notice. Not the rise, not the peak, the unraveling. The moment when orders still come, but the willingness to carry them out quietly weakens. Trump can sense this hesitation. And he reads it as betrayal, so he responds the only way he knows how. He pushes harder, uses stronger words, demands more loyalty. But each time he does this, the quiet resistance grows a little stronger. Because people have learned something important. Openly fighting him is dangerous. Moving slowly is safer. So the cycle repeats. A bold announcement, internal panic, public support, private delay, Trump's anger, another bold announcement. And with every cycle, fear loses a bit more of its power. Loyalty becomes thinner. Control starts to slip. Here's the psychological part that matters most. A leader who draws strength from the idea that people fear him faces his greatest threat when he realizes they no longer do. Because at that point, it stops being about him. It becomes about the system. And systems, above all else, try to protect themselves. That's why the language changes. That's why statements sound careful. That's why people say they are supportive, but their actions move more slowly. These moments don't make headlines, but this is where real change happens. The fall of power is often quiet, like water slowly seeping into a wall. From the outside, everything looks fine, but inside, the structure is weakening. And one day, without a dramatic announcement, the wall gives way. This is the pattern most people miss. They focus on speeches, posts, and headlines. They don't notice the silence between them. They don't see the hesitation inside decisions. They don't hear what is not being said. And this is the moment when power is in its most fragile state. It still looks strong on the surface, but underneath, it is starting to come apart. The final insight is simple. The greatest danger to a leader like Trump is not his opponents. It's the moment when his own allies stop being afraid of him. Because the day fear disappears is the day the foundation of that power begins to collapse. And once you see that pattern, you can't unsee it.